staple food processing zone. We can actually turn them to aggregation and processing center. And we can create aggregation junction where there will be multimodal transport hub, and we can make a lot of money by attracting investment into processing powered by renewable energy. And we can make millionaires out of rural people. We can spur up economic prosperity. We can create a value chain that will go into the world. And for instance, if you go to the UK, there are so many Nigerian indigenous foods that are now being sold by the Pakistani, Indians, and co. We need to really sit down and plan and have a master plan and create value chain for our, the raw product that we just export anyhow. We can attract investment into processing. We can create industry out of processing. And we had several initiatives. We have Commerce 44 products. We have 1 product per local government. We have 22 products by NEPC. We can actually galvanize all these policies and bring in, energy mix that will ensure processing, that will ensure aggregation, that will ensure, having a locomotive to export. A locomotive is just, you aggregate so many MSMEs and connect them to a big firm that will lead the exportation. It will be responsible for processing and quality control. It will be responsible for meeting up of standard. So energy can do a lot in terms of spurring prosperity, in terms of diversification, in terms of foreign exchange earnings for Nigeria. There are so many countries that does not have oil, but they are doing pretty well. So I will also appeal to the Director of Trade. There must be, and the chamber also, there must be a concrete rethinking on connected investments that actually can add value to the national economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I must commend that response, simply because even as you spoke, I was really reflecting on where the synergies lie. One of the things within the Advocacy Committee of the Nigeria British Chamber of Commerce is how do we actually connect and collaborate? We as a country are just generally not good at that. And I think that is one thing, rethinking the connected opportunities. I think that's the next conversation we'll be having as a one-on-one with NESG, to actually present solutions and present potential opportunities as you've described. Quite clearly, power is something that affects every person in this room, and really the opportunities in an extended or cascaded opportunities from renewable energy is one that you have quite nicely articulated. And I'm sure a lot of the members in the room, as they listen, are obviously taking notes of some of the opportunities you have actually spelled out in the discussion. Thanks very much for that. We are conscious of time. We have 1,000,001 questions, but we're not the only ones in the room. It's important that we're picking up the questions from our members who are in the room. There have been quite a number of them on the chats. I'm going to kick off with the first question directed to Mr. Ghana, and then we'll move on to the various questions in the room. The first one, Mr. Ghana, is how is the ministry working with subnationals in the area of mining? A very direct question. Mr. Ghana, are you able to respond? Okay, we cannot see Mr.
Hello?
Yeah. Please respond. So the question is, how is the ministry working with subnationals in the area of mining? Please unmute. Sometimes those mute buttons have a view of themselves. You're still muted. Please unmute. Okay. Looks like Mr. Ghana is struggling with his mute button. Let me ask the next question. What is Nigeria's internationalization strategy for SMEs? For instance, European countries through various trade offices such as the UKTI, Business Sweden, Business Finland, Australia, and so on, proactively guide and support SMEs to good international for partnerships and for partnerships and investments. So do we have a similar setup or support for Nigerian companies to attract investments and foreign exchange into Nigeria? In fact, that question also should typically go to Mr. Ghana, but can I ask Mr. Hassan to have a stab at that? And perhaps Mr. Humphrey, John can share his perspective as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
We can hear you. Yes, we can hear you now.
All right.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you very much. I've really been struggling. Yes, the ministry have been working with a lot of subnationals to be able to facilitate in terms of the solid minerals, because I said earlier that many of the partners that investors that are intending to come to Nigeria is looking at that direction, that there are a lot of prospects there, and they really want to do that. I think the most important thing is that the government is ready to give operating license to investors who are willing to come over, and a lot of scientists on ground to meet their request, and most importantly, the business environment is already created as far as this new government is concerned to allow investors to come in. But very, very important that solid minerals side, those ones that are interested, actually, we have been working closely with the Ministry of Solid Minerals, who have the mandate, who have held the relevant information for us to partner with trading. Investors, would-be investors that are actually interested in developing solid minerals, because they want to come into mining, they want to get all the certificates, they want to start with the registration of their companies, and from that end, they're now going to look at the survey, the rest of them, where they can get it from the perspective ministry. I think that's what we're doing with them. And the second question, I don't know, can you repeat it so I can quickly attend that second question?
Yes, I can repeat the second question. It was a long-winded one, but it was really speaking to Nigeria's internationalization strategy. So for SMEs effectively. So he gave instances or examples. In the UK, you have UKTI. In Sweden, you have Business Sweden, and so on and so forth. But we'd like to understand: do we have a similar setup or support for Nigerians companies to attract investments and FX into Nigeria? Did you get the question? Okay,
are you hearing me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
It's off and on.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay, what I'm saying is this. I hear the question very much. We're talking about what Nigeria is making to ensure that SMEs are brought to standard in terms of globalizations and bringing our SMEs to standard for competitiveness and rest of that. Yes, Nigeria are doing a lot to that essence. And I said an agency responsible for doing that, which is under the ministry, is SMIDA. Smindan has developed a lot of SMEs in terms of capacity building, in terms of startup, and also in terms of which is on board is the issue of a presidential conditional grant for the nano company for nano SMEs, which is on board 50,000 grants to be able to bring them up. That is also a process, and also there is also now loan facilities for SMEs who are going to benefit from it, and it's going to be at one digit, which is about 9%. And the really government is doing a lot to ensure that these SMEs should be able to leverage on even after to be able to come on board because the Nigerian industry cannot be developed without SMEs. SMEs is really the real vehicle to be able to develop the Nigerian economy, and therefore the ministry is doing so much about it to ensure that these SMEs should compete, leveraging the fact that SMEs, after it's on board, and I want our SMEs to compete favorably under the platform of AFTA. And therefore, we are doing a lot of things to develop these SMEs. I know the issues, there are a lot of problems that within these SMEs, we're talking about access to credit facility is really a problem. Capacity building the problem. And through SMIDA, through ITF, they are really building the capacity of these SMEs. And it's one of the key to be able to compete favorably. Thank you.
Mr. Humphrey, please go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Humphrey, please thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Hopefully you can hear me again. Anne, could I ask you if you could kindly put your microphone on mute, because I'm getting an echo back. Oh. That's okay. So listen, I thank you very much. I just wanted to pick up, obviously my role in the UK Department for Business and Trade, which sort of replaced the old UKTI, is very much outward. My main focus is outward from the UK, exporting from the UK, investing from the UK. But as I mentioned earlier on, we also have the Developing Countries Trading Scheme, which is very much aimed at supporting businesses to develop in Nigeria and to be able to export to the UK and to build supply chains, not just locally within Nigeria, but also actually within the region as well. And we're very supportive of the AFCFTA as a sort of general direction. And I think DCTS fits quite well with that. But the UK also has some government programs which also may be relevant actually to your audience as well. So two that I wanted to pick up were a scheme called Growth Gateway, which we can sort of post links later or whatever, which is aimed at sort of supporting businesses that want to access the UK, understanding what regulations they might have to comply with, understanding who the sort of customers might be. That's a program called Gateway. There's also a program called Manufacturing Africa, which has a presence in Nigeria as well. So again, sort of helping to sort of try and sort of develop and build manufacturing businesses. So I think somebody made the point really early on in the conversation that trade has to be mutual. To be sustainable, to generate prosperity and wealth and bind countries together and to build relationships, it has to be mutual. So I really hope that the UK is doing our part for that. The only other thing I would just say is that in terms of DBT, we don't just look at what I would call traditional trade and investment promotion, but we also look at trade policy, market access barriers, supporting sort of large deals, those big deals that happen, but also then trying to support businesses or provide aftercare sort of subsequently as well, because, it doesn't just stop, does it, when exporting starts? It actually hopefully continues over time. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. We will, at this stage, run a poll. I hope that we will get full participation in the poll. If the idea is that it will enable us get some feedback and some data that we will share with everyone in the room. It will, the results will be posted, and we can begin to use the information to work with the various sectors, regulatory bodies in shaping and influencing how we reimagine potential opportunities in Nigeria. So please, let's spend about 2-3 minutes quickly going through the poll. Thank you very much for your participation so far. Thank you. We have just about another minute or two. I hope we're doing well on time with the poll. Very insightful questions in there. So please disregard the last question. Unfortunately, we believe it was repeated. Number 7, a repeat of number 2. Thank you. We're rounding off on our poll now. Mr. Brown will share the results shortly. We have over 70 people on participating, so I'm hoping for some very valuable data. Thank you very much. And some of these poll questions, I'm sure, will be very useful and instrumental to your businesses as you begin to reimagine the opportunities that has been discussed today. Okay, we're slowly closing out on the poll. Thank you very much. I'm just going to go to a question. Go on, David. Sorry, go on.
No, sorry, I just want to encourage more people to fill the poll. We just have 30, only half of us in the house. The more data you have, the better. You know, the more data you have, the better. That's the power of AI right now. It's all about data, right? So please fill the poll. Let's try and complete it.
Certainly the host and the panelists are exempted from voting. There's a chunk number of us already out. Okay, just conscious of time, we probably need to close the poll now. Interesting.
Okay, great. So I think maybe I could just quickly go through some of the results of the poll. Not sure if you can see the results, but I'll just go through them very briefly. So first question was really, what sector do you believe holds the most promise for investment in Nigeria over the next 5 years? And to me, surprisingly, is agriculture. Right. It'd be interesting to know what we think about that. For me, I'm probably biased, but I don't think agriculture, because I don't know how competitive, if we have competitive advantage in agriculture. But technology, I think we really do have competitive advantage in technology. Technology was 23%, agriculture 45%, manufacturing 13%, and then the rest, energy 13%. So I don't know what we think about that. Does anyone want to chime in from our panel on that? Where do you see the most promise? The audience thinks agriculture. Agriculture and technology, together about 73%. Oh, 70%.
John, it'd be interesting to have your perspective.
So I have to say, I think that I think food security is an issue generally. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in agriculture, and I actually it's an opportunity that I think generally across the continent is not being exploited locally, but actually also not being exploited internationally. And of course, Nigeria, has direct air links into the UK, and for example, we see a lot of horticultural trade, with Kenya, for example, in terms of mixed vegetables and those sorts of things. But actually, I would have agreed with David instinctively. I'd have felt that it was in the technology space. You think about human capital, and you think about I think it speaks for itself, really. I think in many ways, I would have said technology would have been my pick.
Interesting. So let me take the next question. So it was, what's your biggest concern when considering investment in Nigeria? And the biggest is economic policies and regulation, 48%, and then infrastructure challenges. So together, that's almost like 90%. Economic policies and regulations, infrastructure challenges. Maybe Dr. Mahmood, what do you think there?
I think Dr. Mahmood is out for the minute. He dropped off. It was a technical error, challenge. So perhaps Dr. Alaba can give us his perspective.
Policies and regulations, number one challenge. That's what the audience think.
I think. Thank you. I think they are right. Regulatory agencies are one of the greatest pains of businesses, and I did a study of the Murtala Mohammed International Airport cargo warehouse where air freight goes through, and you see a lot of regulatory agencies chasing the same thing, actually fighting each other. I've had occasion where, I won't mention them, one agency had to use gun to chase another agency away from the cargo warehouse that they were doing their jobs. And if you look at all of them, there are enabling laws that actually enable them to do all of this. So that's prompted me to look at the act establishing